let's check out this smart harmonizer in the HeadRush. Let's go. Hey, hope you're all doing well. If you're new here, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, check out all the links down the bottom. And if you'd like to support the channel, you can make a donation or check out my shop and browse all of my available content. So lately, all of my videos are based on all of you lovely people making comments and suggesting things to look at. So that's why I'm looking at the smart harmonizer in the HeadRush right now. So there's obviously many ways that you can go about using this particular effect, but for me, I usually play in a three-piece band, or I'm the only guitarist a lot of the time. I like playing heavy music, and a lot of the time there's usually two guitarists and they're playing some harmonies together and some cool lead lines. So for example, so here's just the rig. And put the harmonizer on. So as you can hear there, it sounds really great on solos when you've got the right amount blended in. But another really cool way to use it is on a clean patch or like a really big ambient sound. The only thing with doing it on a clean patch like this is that you got to be careful when you're ringing more than one note together, because it still needs to track every one of it, and it's not very much a polyphonic kind of thing. Even though it can track all of the notes, it finds it really hard. You can kind of hear the notes freaking out there, and the HeadRush doesn't really know what to do with all of that information. So building a rig, personally, I like to put it after my amp and before the cab. Or you can probably put it after the cab, but I like it after the amp, especially using a heavy tone, because I find when the harmony's hitting the front of the amp, much like a delay, or anything that's hitting the front of distortion, it's going to be distorted as well. And here, it's kind of in the loop, so it's less disgusting. So default settings, you get 40%, and everything else is at 0 there. So when you're using these kinds of things, you kind of do need to have a bit of an understanding of music theory, at least enough for you to be able to choose the right one. You can muck around and figure it out, but if you don't know, do some research and figure that stuff out. So first of all, my guitar is tuned to E flat. So if I was going to be playing in E major, I would have to choose so you can't choose flats. Here it does everything in sharps, and the one lower than E is E flat or D sharp, so I choose that one. So voice number 2 is obviously voice number 2. So the volume here is currently at 0, which means both of them are going to be the same blend. But let's turn that all the way down so we can only hear voice 1. Now voice 1 is a third. What does that mean? Now in the scale, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the 8th note is the same as the first note. Back to E. So a third, 1, 2, 3. On every note, it's not adding that note, it's adding that amount of distance from each note. So 1, 2. So that's essentially a major chord. So then if we were to play this note, we still move up another 3 notes. 1, 2, 3. So it's making the chord for you. So the second voice here is a 5th. Now in most keys, especially major and minor, the 5th is what's known as a perfect 5th, because the spacing and the interval, and that's what this is here, it's an interval, is perfect. It doesn't change, it's always the same. When I go across in key here, you see the spacing of my fingers changing? That's because they change, whereas a 5th is just a power chord. And the spacing remains the same all the time, so it just works. So the basic version of a chord is essentially the root note, the third note, and the fifth note. So what's happening here in this smart harmony is we play our root note and it's adding the third and the fifth on it, so it's giving us a full chord on that one note. That's our E major chord right there. So obviously this voice 2 volume just dictates how much of that second voice is in, and the mix at the top is 100% mix is only harmony, and then obviously anything less than that you'll have dry signal plus the harmony. Detune. Okay, so you can't turn voice 1 down. Cool. Let's turn voice 2 down then. We'll crank this, and now I'm only going to hear the third. So as you can hear, it's not perfect, but it's all right. And when you blend it in with your dry tone, you don't really notice that sort of movement. The HeadRush is a computer, and at the end of the day, it still has to take that information, record it, and then reproduce it so we can hear it at the other end. This detune is up or down. Essentially, it takes that note and it's going to take it off pitch. So if you think about it in a real situation, say old mate, your second guitarist, is going crazy and his strings slip and he goes out of tune a little bit, it's going to sound more natural kind of thing. That's kind of the vibe here. However, I don't think you really need to adjust the detune, seeing as it wasn't that great anyway. What do you guys reckon? Is it the same, or is it better, or is it worse? I actually do think it works a little bit better with detune on it. It seems to sit nicer. So I take back what I said about not having to do it. I think do the detune, because it, for whatever reason, moving it off pitch for whatever this thinks E flat major is, it tends to work nicer. Cool, that's good to know. Discovery, right? And if we bring that fifth back in. That's a bit fun. Now this glide time, I was playing with that before, it basically just makes it sound really bad. So personally, I think the glide time you don't use. Looks like it's gonna be universal, so across both of them. So let's crank it. Essentially, it sounds like your friend trying to play a harmony with you is an idiot and can't keep up, and he's either going hard or he just got a whammy bar and he's just bending everything, again, like an idiot. So again, this one I actually don't like. I think it makes it sound bad. Yeah, nah. I mean, maybe a little bit sort of for colour or something like that. Maybe. Yeah, no, look, I don't like the glide time. I personally would just leave it at 0. And the delay. Do we have delay on voice 2? We do, on both of them. Now this is where it could get a bit interesting. I'll leave the mix at 60%. And let's do a delay of 100 milliseconds on voice 1, and we'll go 200 milliseconds, or 200, yeah, no, 300 milliseconds on voice 2. So it does this sort of thing now. So essentially what's happening there is it's working like delay. It brings the note in after you play. So if I push that up now, crank my mix, I'll pick, and then you'll hear the notes. So it could be pretty fun. You could make that work in some kind of situation. I don't know right now how I would do that, but it could be a thing. If you're going for more of a, now I want to say natural sort of feel, then put a little bit of delay on there, and then it's not going to sound so robotic. It's going to feel, and the idea of it is, I think, to make it feel more like a couple of humans doing a couple of things. So talking about the harmony voices again, essentially a third and a fifth, you can't really go wrong there. It's always going to sound more or less like a chord and something, yeah, it's going to sound nice. A second, second's going to sound a bit whack. If you like whack music, you could probably find a use for it. So essentially what's happening there, you're putting this note and this note together, so it's going to sound weird. So it's not really my cup of tea. Like I said, third's pretty good. This is in major. Fourth's a weird one. You can make it work. Sounds good. So again, I think 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds pretty good, actually. I like the fourth. That's nice. Fifth we heard. Sixth, again, it's a weird one. It's in key, so it's going to be it's going to work, but it'll sound like different. That's an interesting voicing, that one. I like that too. The seventh, same deal. Seventh note of the key. That one doesn't really work for me either, because if you think about it, we've got this note and we've got the seventh note, which is essentially the note right before the E, but an octave higher than that one. So that's where I think if you use that delay kind of thing, you could have that seventh kick in after it, sound like you're doing that kind of deal. Yeah. Octave. So the eighth note is obviously the octave. That's just an octave, you know what that sounds like. And then it goes the other way as well. So you can bring in not only the octave above or the voicings above, you can do a third below. Sounds a bit more churchy, that one. So look, I could go through these all day. Let's just change the key again. We'll go now to E minor or D sharp minor because I'm in E flat. Let's do a fifth below and a third. I actually didn't mind the sound of the fourth, so I have the third and the fourth together might be a bit strange. So let's try an octave, hey? Cool. There we go, that's a quick look at the Smart Harmonizer in the HeadRush. So that's how I would go about using it, and that's how I would think about applying it to the things that I'm playing. The sky's the limit with that one. Essentially, I think it's mostly about getting the blend and the mix of each of those intervals correct and making them sound nice and not have them stand out and sound wrong. As you heard, the tracking was not perfect, so obviously blend it back a little bit. 70% on there at the moment is too much. I find for me anywhere sort of around 40-50% mix, and it tends to sound pretty good, and you don't notice any of those artifacts that are happening on the tracking. There we have it. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. See you next time.